Hi, Carl. Well, I'm now hearing from a senior Treasury official who gave me a little bit more detail around that phone call that Mnuchin had with bank CEOs and the subsequent statement they put out. This official telling me they viewed this as a, quote, prudent, preemptive measure given the market volatility that we have seen last week and over the past several weeks. Now, what I'm hearing privately is that the news about Jay Powell was one part of the catalyst for this call, but it was also, again, the wild swings that we've seen in the marketplace and the fact that we are entering what could be a very prolonged government shutdown. I'm also told that the bottom line out of the call is that the economy was strong. There are no major concerns about liquidity or about lending, that this was an effort by the Treasury Department to be transparent that clearly is backfiring on them now, perhaps creating concern where there was none to begin with. Now, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin will be having that phone call with the Working Group on Financial Stability today. The Fed, the SEC, the CFTC will all be a part of that. I will let you know if we get a readout from that call. Back over to you.
But Ylan, it's an important distinction. Just to be clear, it sounds you're saying the call was mostly about, in a sense, policy and Powell rather than market liquidity. That was the focus of the call?
The catalyst for the call, the reason why this call was placed to begin with, from what I'm hearing, is partly Jay Powell, partly government shutdown, partly market volatility. And I think the call was going both ways, both sides sort of seeking assurance from the other. And the bottom line being that there is no concern over liquidity, over lending. You know, we've talked a lot about, does the Treasury Department know something that the markets don't know? I don't think that was the case, that this was intended to be a sort of check-in at a time when there's a lot of drama in D.C. as well as a lot of turmoil in the marketplace. And by putting out this statement, it actually added to that sense of uncertainty rather than taking away from it.
Well, have we ever seen anything like this? I mean, can you recall, or is there an example where the Treasury comes out in the middle of a steep Wall Street sell-off to talk about bank liquidity?
When there's nothing wrong, do they come out and say there's nothing wrong? Right, so the financial crisis is the best example.
There's nothing wrong, in case you were wondering, which nobody was.
The financial crisis is the best example of that. But again, this is a different administration with a leader who is not steeped in government policy in the way that previous Treasury secretaries have been. The way that, again, they're framing this is they thought this would be a preemptive measure, but again, causing more concern than alleviating it.
Yeah. Look, I mean, in the first paragraph of the Treasury's own statement, it talks about liquidity, lending, business markets, all other market operations. The CEO saying they have not experienced any clearance or margin issues. It's their own statement that leads to more questions. I get the clarification today and maybe trying to ease some of the concerns that exist in the marketplace today as to why the call was made, that it was for a number of issues, not necessarily just because of market concerns or liquidity or whatnot. And I do think, okay, was it prudent? Wouldn't you expect the Secretary of the Treasury to always be in conversation with the people of the like of Jamie Dimon and others?
It's the putting out of the statement. It's putting the statement out, right? And so again, the way that I'm hearing it described internally is, you know, if it had come out during a Christmas weekend that the Treasury Secretary had these conversations while on vacation with these bank execs, people would think, oh my God, what's wrong with the economy? It must be really bad if the Treasury Secretary is breaking into his vacation in order to talk to these CEOs. So perhaps to get ahead of that, they put out this statement, which again leads us during the Christmas weekend to have those exact same questions. So you can question the communication strategy, but what I'm told is that there is not, again, some secret that Treasury knows that the rest of us don't.